but the art of acting is really, there are no, this comes from Stanislavski. There are no small parts. There's just small actors. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So you always play your role with full commitment, and you're treated that way as an artist. And treat yourself as an artist, because that's you have to start there, because if you don't, no one else will.
Paul, how are you?
Good, 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 Jim. Good. How are
Where
you?
in the world are you?
I'm in Los Angeles, and you are in Chicago?
I'm in Chicago.
I like Chicago.
Do you food or just
Well, I
visiting?
worked at the
Like,
Art Institute of Chicago, the
yeah.
Goodman Theater. I was in the theater a lot, and I worked there
Uh-huh.
with some. We had a great time, and it was many years ago. And I have a lot of friends from Chicago in the acting world. Of course, they think highly of themselves. The Chicago
Great,
actors.
great theater town, like you mentioned.
Oh, it is. It's a great thing. I just came back from London, which is another great theater town. But
Uh-huh.
and New York, I mean, Chicago's second best.
There you
But
go.
anyway, the second city stuff. But I love Chicago and food too.
Oh yeah. Like, I've lived in LA, but there's something about home, that's always special and unique. And we have pride, in the city about our city.
Oh, I know you do, and it's great. I mean, and I played a lot of hockey, so I love watching the Blackhawks, play. So
There
they're
you go.
great
That's
team.
cool.
Yeah.
Getting a little insight here. Paul, I had a lot of fun watching this film. It struck me as a buddy comedy in a way. I didn't expect it to be, but it sort of it felt like it. Was that a fair assumption for this film?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, the whole idea was a kind of a growth movie between the guy who was the career criminal, who was kind of existential hero, taking the kid who was, like I said, he's like a half-eaten donut that was 3 years days old that was left on the couch in a Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, he just was like falling apart. And Marty, the character I played, needed Steve, so needed to manipulate him, but gave him back something that he could pocket, which was awareness and boldness, and may I say the word balls. Uh,
Yeah.
it gave him some kind of life of choice, because at the time he was just being chewed and discarded, and so that was the give back, and I think that's kind of the centerpiece that I saw the movie
Uh-huh.
projecting or developed out of this existential encounter.
That's an interesting point. He's sort of a mentor in a way, a big brother slash father figure, sort of teaching him
Yeah,
about life and open up your eyes to some things.
yeah, wearing still, always having prison garb close at hand. I mean, somebody who
Yeah.
really lived a tougher life, and but I don't think there's only briefly. It was brought up once in an interview. Did Marty ever really describe himself? And he used to say, because you're from Chicago, he's
Uh-huh.
not a gangster. He wanted to make that clear, because he's not of some organized family or
Yeah.
or some theme, or certainly no silk suits and all that, hair gel. He wasn't part of that. He's not a gangster. He doesn't have to answer up to anyone, as he said. Gangsters are like sheep. They always are following people. So he
Hmm.
was like a guy who was an individual person of one who specialized in art. I found out, and I read a lot about it. He
Yeah.
was really he was an expert in samurai blades. He knew everything about samurai swords. We call them
Uh-huh.
swords, but they were referred to as blades. And I read books and books about him, just to instill in myself this sense of this guy had a really interesting curated mind, that he liked certain things about art. And the art that he picked too, the Isabella Stewart Gardner, was top shelf. I mean, Rembrandt's, Storm on the Sea of Galilee, which was his favorite, and the Vermeer and stuff like that, which are very rare. So he knew what he was taking, even though it's in this package of this sort of, rough and ready older dude who's willing to do anything to live larger.
Uh-huh. It's so interesting when you sort of play a character that's based on sort of truish events in a lot of ways. How do you approach that? Do you try to, from the information that you have, piece it together to create a sort of a character of this person, a real human? or do you have some play with it, knowing the information and sort of spinning your own take on it? I'm always curious when actors take roles of like
Well,
based
it's a
on true
very,
figures.
very good question. And I like you use two words. You use the words true-ish.
Yeah.
That's an interesting word. True-ish. And I think it's the answer, the short answer is it's both.
Mm.
It's both at the same time and usable when and when you want in a collage that's your own making. So it's constructed in real time, and you have all these things, elements at your disposal to throw away, not to use. So you're
Hmm.
constantly kind of like, in this kind of sandbox of creation when you're working. So the ability to access that is really the art, I think, of actors, how they can really fill out both everything at their disposal.
Uh-huh.
All the research, all the stuff, all the preparation, and then the immediacy of the moment, all together in one big kind of souffle, hopefully, so it rises up.
Paul, is that fun for you, or is that sort of
Oh,
could be
fun.
tedious or overwhelming in a time when you have so much information and you're trying to
No,
pick it?
if it's any of those things that you mentioned, it's going to be bad. It's
Mm.
never overwhelming. And even if it's too much fun, it can like lead to, uh, over amping. So it's
Uh-huh.
not too much fun and it's not overwhelming. There's like a pocket. It's like, 8 ball in the corner pocket.
Uh-huh.
You want it to go right in there and land really cleanly.
I
You
like
have one sound of the cue ball, it hits the 8 ball, and it lands in the pocket. You like that sound. You don't want it to hit the bank. You want it to just land. That's
that.
the goal. So you have to be kind of in a way nimble, like anybody, like an athlete, like a surfer, like a musician, like anybody, like we're doing now. You want to be nimble, open, curious, and let it flow.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah, so you
speaking.
can't have a lot of people like trying to collect a bill who happens to be, oh, there's a guy in your trailer and you owe him money. And you don't want any distractions in a way, which is why some actors keep themselves very insulated, which is, okay, whatever you need, man. I mean,
Hmm.
because the creation part is very, very alive.
When you do that process, is this done prior to the getting on set, or you still find these self-discoveries when you're on set too?
Again,
Uh,
the answer to that is definitely, Jim, is both.
both. Okay.
Yeah, the answer is both. It's always both. If what, there's all, and if there was another third answer, I'd say it's all three.
Uh-huh.
If you had
You
another
gotta be
third
open to
answer,
these sort of possibilities. That's a great thing, being open as an
totally,
actor to sort of whatever
totally.
comes
But
at
you
you.
got to know what you're doing. And again, this in Eric Aronson, the director of Any Day Now, I want to
Mhm.
make sure we understand what we're talking about.
Yes.
He's not a first-time director, but he's a writer, and he had the ability, and I admire him for this, and he's become a friend. He had the ability to keep the discipline of what he wrote because he wrote it. So he wanted to make sure it's structured and wrote and clear. So he doesn't want to take too many easy steps of just getting carried away with what's happening in the moment. So he had a
Mhm.
control on the improvisations, he had a control on the behaviors, and he also allowed them to happen. At the same time, he was encouraging them to happen, but controlling the discipline so that it's usable. Because independent cinema, unfortunately, you can't have too many mistakes. You can't blow a whole
Right.
day or blow a whole bunch of time experimenting, even though we did. We blew a couple of takes by trying, I was trying the character to be really high, really, really loaded in prison, like loaded on heroin, loaded. And we
Ah.
tried a couple of takes of that. It was going pretty good. It's pretty interesting. But we realized, and I realized too, that it's going to open the movie. It's the first thing you see. And we better not start off with the guy like nodding out. I mean, it would be
Yeah.
okay in the middle of the movie, but because I think that's how these guys survive in prison from my research. It's just like the street. Prison is not, like it is in the movies. It's really the street
Hmm.
and supervised and full of danger and full of real life. And
Yes.
so anyway, we tried that and it was kind of interesting, but it wasn't going to fit in the picture. It didn't have discipline. So we put in just a general aggressive straight in the face like what do you guys want? Like a guy who is a lifer, a guy who knows prison really well. That's the opening shot in the movie. So anyway,
Mhm.
that seemed to be the right choice. And like I say, Eric has the discipline to recognize that. I don't know if I
Interesting.
do.
That's right. You know, Taylor Gray, really enjoyable sort of rising actor here. You have a lot of scenes with him. How did you build chemistry with him? Because I feel
Oh,
it.
great. Great. One of the things about Taylor and everybody and the other guys too, who are in the men and women, the younger actors, and
Yeah.
even the other actors who I knew gave me a lot of, we all had a lot of trust. There was in the tribe of all the actors, and we were all together in pretty awkward and, really, situations of Boston, working class back. We had some really funky holding areas, and we didn't have a
Uh-huh.
lot of comforts that we have that we are used to, some of us. So it was we buoyed each other up in a kind of a beautiful ensemble. Everyone was fantastic. And the younger guys, because now I'm an older dude and they were really curious about like, hey, what's the journey going to be like? What's going on? And they want to really help, find out about some stories and some things that went on, how to operate, like how to operate as a pro in the
Uh-huh.
world of acting. And the way you'd operate as a pro hockey player, the way you want to know about how do I keep in shape, how do I do this, they're
Yeah.
very curious and great guys. So that chemistry came together because we almost fit into our roles in the same way we fit in as people and as in our parts. So it all melded together and created a great unity.
Any particular word of advice that you like to share, or like when actors come to you and sort of want to know, you've had a
Well, I
long.
mean, yeah, I do. I say one thing. I say treat yourself like an artist.
Hmm.
Live a life like you're an artist. Don't fall into this habit of, I just get back from London, where
Mhm.
actors there are recognized as artists. We in America kind of like, well, how much money do you make? I mean, what kind of
Right.
big movie did you do? Did you play the main role? And, we get caught up a little bit in the movie star stuff. But the art of acting is really, there are no, this comes from Stanislavski. There are no small parts. There's just small actors. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So you always play your role with full commitment, and you're treated that way as an artist. And treat yourself as an artist, because you have to start there. Because if you don't, no one else will.
Yes.
Let me just
So
say
well
this.
said. Paul, as I let you go, what I mean, you've had such a distinguished career. You've been in this industry so long, and that's a credit to a
It's not
working
my fault.
actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, to a working actor, you know it's tough. It's a fleeting business. What has been sort of your key to stick around? And it's interesting to see too, because a lot of the actors you worked with, like especially recently, you work with Demi Moore and Guy Pearce, and now they're getting recognized for Oscars, decades later too. What have you learned really? I'm sure there's a lot of lessons, but in your journey, in your acting journey, now that you look back, through all these years in the industry, what do you think has been kept you around in a sense?
Well, I mean, I think it's the approach to the work. So
Hmm.
I take it, seriously. I think also, I've learned like, because I've played hockey a lot in a big way,
Uh-huh.
you have to be good at it, You got to really, you're going to be overqualified for jobs, but don't
Hmm.
take that in a bad way. Just know that you know what you're doing and carry that with you in a way. It's a nice, could you call it a kind of swagger, maybe, but it's also, you can't do it by yourself. So the relatability you have with this that I mentioned before, this tribe of other actors, you have to be in concert with other people. And so the relatability is important as well as your own individual artistic goals.
Hmm. One thing I want to follow up on that, the industry's changed so much as you've seen. I mean, it's a different industry in a way where now if you're an influencer, if you have a lot of followers on
Yeah,
something,
I
you're
know.
suddenly
It's
thrown into a
true.
movie or TV show. How do some of these individuals aren't ready for acting or don't have the chops or the time put in? Have you experienced that or sort of that sort of side of the industry or seen that firsthand?
Well, yes, but I know as a person in my own life, I'm only able to control the things or to even use or to be aware of the things that I can. I can only make of the world what I can make of it. I
Yes.
can't make of it something that I want it to be. In other words, I just take it for what it is. And I know that there are those things, and to do anything else to just to take it for what it is all I can do.
I think that's well said. Words of wisdom, Paul, all around. I really enjoyed this conversation. Very fun role. an interesting story here in this film, and you keep on doing the good work. I've seen so much of your work over the years, and any day now, it's just next one in line. Looking forward to what's next for you, Paul, and
Yeah,
good to
that's so
finally get
nice.
to talk to you.
Thanks for good talking to you, and thanks for your support of the movie any day now.
Absolutely. It's important to sort of bring smaller films to wider audiences, and whatever I can do, there's always gems out there that people might not be able to see. So I
Okay,
enjoy
somehow
this
we
part
hit
of it.
mute. I don't know if that was me or you.
Uh, no, I can hear you. So,
See ya.
Paul, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.